at 10. I'm Rick Chambers.
And I'm Corrine Winter. In an escalation that could spark all-out war in the Middle East, the United States has dramatically entered Israel's war against Iran.
Yeah, American jets bombed 3 nuclear sites over in the Islamic Republic. One of those sites was the infamous mountain facility at Fordo, a major uranium enrichment center, hundreds of feet underground. And in a speech to the nation, as you heard, President Trump said that all of the sites were, quote, completely and totally obliterated.
We have live team coverage tonight. KTLA's Sarah Welsh is getting a local reaction to the strikes. But first, to Rachel Menitoff now from the KTLA News Center with details of the military action. Rachel.
Corrine, Rick, good evening to you both. President Trump said tonight if peace doesn't come quickly, he will go after additional targets in the region, saying most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. He also praised the U.S. military as the only one in the world to be able to do what was done tonight.
Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success.
President Trump addressing his decision to strike 3 of Iran's nuclear sites to prevent the country from building a nuclear bomb. He says Iran has repeatedly threatened to destroy Israel and says the U.S. completely obliterated its key nuclear enrichment centers, including the heavily fortified Fordo, a facility located 300 feet below the surface of the ground. The bomb used is tens of thousands of pounds and requires a special jet to deploy the weapon, equipment that only the U.S. possesses. More than a week ago, Israel launched a surprise attack on Iranian sites, and the country retaliated with a series of missile and drone strikes on Israeli infrastructure.
Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu thanked President Trump and says this is the potential to usher in a new era of prosperity and peace in the Middle East.
America has been truly unsurpassed.
Officials in California and New York say they're monitoring the situation for any potential domestic impacts. Governor Gavin Newsom writes, "There's no specific or credible threat we are aware of at this time," but he urges people to stay vigilant and report suspicious activity. Members of Congress on both sides of the aisle are offering mixed reaction. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina congratulated the president and said it was the right call. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries slammed the president's decision, saying the risk of war has now dramatically increased. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez believes the president's actions are clearly grounds for impeachment. Independent Senator Bernie Sanders addressed the operation at a rally in Oklahoma.
But it is so grossly unconstitutional. All of you know that the only entity that can take this country to war is the U.S. Congress. The president does not have the right.
Kayvon Harris, a professor of sociology at UCLA, says we'll begin to see the effects of this strike tomorrow and in the days to come. It could be in the form of retaliation against 40,000 or so American troops in the region. The conflict could also impact global oil supply, meaning higher prices at the pump for Angelenos.
Of course, we can remember from prior times when both parties have attempted to attack another country or attack successfully with air power. There's usually a brief hurrah in the United States. Probably will happen again. But then reality will sink in, and we might end up being dragged into a conflict that we can't control, that many people did not want, and it doesn't seem many people voted for.
And Iran has confirmed the attacks and says there's no sign of contamination at its nuclear sites. At this hour, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, is reportedly in hiding, fearing an assassination attempt. Live in the news center, I'm Rachel Menitoff. Corrine, back to you.
All right, Rachel, thank you.
All right, first and foremost, I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rukaha, Kodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of GMS who I learned from. Shalom to the whole elect, preaching His word in truth and sincerity. To you, Ribs, and to you, sisters out there learning silence, stay in order. I say to you all, Shalom. Right, things are heating up. Man, I've been on and off watching the news on, the military just to know, what time we in, like how fast, how closer and closer we are to the the third woe, right? And you know, I found out about this truth in like 2013, right? But I've always been interested in, the wars, only because I grew up in a Pentecostal Christian church, and that was instilled in us in that church where wars are related to prophecy, right? Even as a Christian, right? They don't really go into them, but just the fear of the Lord coming due to these wars has been instilled in me since I was like 7 years old, right? So it's the reason why I always, pay attention. Although when I read Revelations as a Christian, or even, somebody who's just trying to pick it up, Revelations never made sense to me because of the metaphors and the dragons and the lotus and all that stuff, right? Not one Christian could ever break those down properly. I've never heard anybody even come close. But anyways, once I heard about the first woe, the second woe, and the third woe, I knew that this is the truth, man. This is where my spirit just, absorbed it like a sponge. My spirit draw closer to this truth, and I immediately got it. I was happy to know that I was in the right place, and made me emotional in a sense, right? Like, one, I was happy to know that the Lord has, people that He loves that He's gonna take care of, and two, the fact that I am one of those tribes, and that all the suffering and all the things that we've been through in our lives was for a reason. But anyways, here we are, 2025, right, in the midst of the third woe. And as we draw closer and closer, the saints and the hopeful elect are jumping for joy, right? Because this is a clear sign that Yahushua is coming back, right? That He's not forgot us, that we don't have another 1,000 years in this place, right? And He shows us a glimpse of, Jacob's trouble, and also the third woe, in the MARK, hip, right? All these things are in our face right now to let you know, to wink at us, to say, hey, stay faithful servant. These things must come, to pass. And I like watching this, man, because it's reassuring, man. Right? Russia said that they're gonna help Iran. Right? This is all prophecy. This is Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 4. And I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thy armies and horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with buckler and shield, all of them handling swords. Right? This is directed to the Prince of Meshech, right? Who currently is Putin, right? The bear in Russia, right? He's the one that's going to lead the charge against Babylon the whore, and he's going to bring a company of nations with him, and he will be a guard unto them. Verse 5, Persia, right? Which is, the Elamites, right? Who encompass India and, Pakistan are Elamites. Pakistan and India are Elamites. right? They're at war right now themselves. It says Ethiopia, right? Ethiopia is already prepared, right? They basically pawns, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands in the house of Togarma of the North Quarters, right? We're talking about Russia and all that part. Says and his bands and many people with thee. Verse 7, be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou all and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. See, Russia has the most nuclear weapons, right? They're the ones leading the charge. Although China has a lot of technology, they have not really done much as far as these little scrimmages, right? But China's also angry with the whore and is ready. This is Revelation chapter 11, verse 14. And the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. Right? That's the first woe, second woe, or war, World War One, World War Two. This is the time where they say it's past. The second one has passed, and a lot of things came out of the Second World War, where the small hatters out there in the Middle East have established a base, so to speak, in our homeland, right, Israel. But they was looking for a place, to set up a base, right, before that, but about 100 years before that, and they were thinking about going into Africa, or because they saw the Europeans take South Africa, Argentina, other places like that. So they're setting up bases all over the place. They have stretched themselves throughout the earth, just like Rome did, right? This is second Rome, America's second Rome. And they're Edomites, so they're all part of the same family. So they decided to take Israel, but they had to get rid of Palestinians first. So they had to, paint a picture that, they were being oppressed and they're the people and they need to return back to their homeland. And that's how they got that place. Verse 14, the second woe was past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. Verse 15, and the seventh angel sounded, and there was a great voices in heaven, saying, the kingdom of this world and are become the kingdoms of our Lord, right? This is when Hamashiach Yahushai has snatched the crowns off the heads of all these kings, right? Remove their power, so to speak, right? It says, and of his Hamashiach, and he shall reign forever and ever, right? So after this world war, right, Yahushua comes and dethrones everybody. Right, this is what we hoping for, man. For Yahushua to, crown his saints, right? So this wicked kingdom could come to naught, right, and finally have rest. Now I pray this lesson was edifying. I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Kaha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of GMS who I learned from. Shalom to those for like preaching his word in true sincerity, and to your ribs, to your sisters out there learning silence and staying in order. I say to you all, Shalom.